Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and this is the MMORPG Championships 2019. We'll be taking the world's most popular MMORPGs and making them fight to the death to find out which one deserves the title of Greatest MMORPG 2019. They'll compete on everything from graphics to gameplay, dungeons to developers. 16 contestants, 15 matches, and one overall winner. Who will be the greatest MMORPG 2019? Match 3, World of Warcraft versus Runescape 3. Two of the largest names in MMORPG history meet early in this competition, and while each of these excellent games has an older build currently available, for this battle we'll be comparing the most up-to-date live release of each game. That's Battle for Azeroth expansion for World of Warcraft versus RuneScape 3. Let's get to know the contestants. World of Warcraft. The MMORPG so big it's had shelves of books, sold out conventions, even a South Park episode all created in its honour. It follows the story of the Warcraft real-time strategy games and allows players to explore the huge world of Azeroth. It's broken world records for amounts of accounts made and active live players. It is a powerhouse of the genre. RuneScape 3 is a classic name with a new updated look. Continuing the story of the God Wars in the land of Gelenor, RuneScape 3 combines the old train everything on one character gameplay design choice with the latest graphics, combat, and combination skills such as invention or divination. It's still hailed as one of the most influential MMORPGs of all time. Both games come from experienced companies with strong backgrounds, so let's start the battle. Round 1. Graphics and Style. World of Warcraft may not have the highest quality graphics in terms of polygon counts or textures, but what it does have is style. Immortal, genre-defining style. Those blocky and chunky character models, the large hands, thick weapons, rolling hills, huge wooden huts of Orgrimmar or towers of Ironforge all combine to create an unforgettable sense of place. Many players critique the chunky graphics, saying it's getting old and beginning to show its age, and while they're partly right, being old isn't a problem because style lasts forever. World of Warcraft hasn't tried to look like other games. It's stuck so strongly to its simple and recognisable style, it's effectively prevented any other game from ever using it, and becoming so famous and so dominant you can steal an entire art style is pretty impressive. RuneScape 3 has adopted a more down-to-earth, realistic proportional style. The human models look like human models and all medieval towns are the correct scale, which makes the huge weapons or extravagant armour look even more impressive in comparison. The updated graphics engine allows for huge render distances, a skybox to be added, particle effects, and beautiful water graphics. It's the small details that really let RuneScape stand out. The grass effects, the stone floor textures, things hanging outside of shops, or the trails of smoke from the higher level capes. The lower tier weapons and armour all look more like believable medieval armour and weapons, and the higher tier begins to approach high fantasy, almost a cartoon style. In a very gender-neutral move, all armour covers males and females effectively equally, a nice move away from the chainmail bikinis of yesteryear. And the winner of the graphics and style round is World of Warcraft. The chunky blocky graphics, the industry standard user interface and character heads displayed in portrait form, the variation available within Azeroth. Warcraft may not be the most beautiful, but it's got so much soul it's impossible not to be impressed while travelling around this massive world. Round 2. The levelling process. World of Warcraft currently caps out at level 120, although there are plans for a level squish in the near future. The process to get there is all about efficiency. Items you pick up along the way, including heirloom items, are simply leveling items. Nothing will help you at end game. When you reach the end game, the real game begins, as they say. This unfortunately has the effect of making the leveling process pointless. It's considered a tutorial to learn your class and discover your skills, but as you can buy level boosts, it's just an accepted waste of time. RuneScape 3, despite what you may feel about the direction the game has taken or the speed skills can be trained with, is all about the leveling process. In fact, that process of moving from 1 to maximum is literally the majority of the game. Skills can be trained much quicker as the updates keep coming and new, more efficient skilling spots or combat items are added all the time, meaning that while the achievement capes may be easier to get, they do slowly lose their impressive status over time. Despite this, RuneScape 3 is all about the leveling. It's the focus of the game. And the winner of the leveling process is RuneScape 3. Warcraft was never going to win this when their leveling process is simply a hurdle to overcome on the way to the game, and RuneScape has built its entire game around the leveling process. Round 3. Story and Lore. World of Warcraft, in a fight about which game has the more lore. Well, this is never going to be a fair fight. Not only does Warcraft boast a stupidly impressive 7 major expansions along with 3 real-time strategy games, it's also got shelves full of complete full-length novels, short stories, novellas, comic books, a cookbook, and a full-scale Hollywood adaptation film. This game has stories within stories, action figures, music albums, audio novels, and a cosplay community so large it could fill a convention hall many times over. Within the game, you're treated to deep, complex, rich characters, locations being built up and then completely destroyed. The Cataclysm expansion wiped half the world and began again. The Mists of Pandaria opened up the Eastern-themed island and race. It is the bar by which all other MMORPGs are measured. It's that expansive. So how does RuneScape 3 stand up? Well, honestly, remarkably well. The history of RuneScape is much richer than most people realise. The tales from the first to the current age of Gelnor contain a huge amount of legends, heroes, tales of swords and sorcery. The God Wars is still one of my favourite in-game stories from any game ever, and the 3 successful novels, Betrayal at Falador, Return to Canaphis and Legacy of Blood, were remarkably good. I know, I've read them. The game took the bold step of killing a major god, Guthix, the god of balance. The force destined to keep the forces of Saradomin and Zamorak at bay from each other is no more, and this creates somewhat of a problem from a dramatic standpoint. There's no real advantage to either side and no consequence to keep them both in check. RuneScape's 3 story and lore isn't bad at all. It's deeper than most games will ever be, and contains some surprisingly funny moments, especially with all the Falador knights having puns as names. However, it's unfortunately up against World of Warcraft. The winner of the story and lore round is World of Warcraft. It was never going to go any other way. There's more high-quality literature than you could read in a year, and more short stories than you'd be able to remember. Warcraft is the king of MMORPG lore. Round 4. Combat Mechanics. World of Warcraft didn't invent the hotbar system or tab targeting system, but it's widely accepted to have perfected it. The idea of placing each individual ability into a slot, linking that slot to a key, and then charging into battle with 30 abilities ready to go at a moment's notice makes combat fast, responsive, and deep. The tab target system itself may be getting old, and the action combat games like Terra and Neverwinter do serve to highlight its shortcomings, but it's still surprisingly resilient and capable of providing fast, engaging fights. Combat has unfortunately been simplified in recent years, removing several class-specific abilities or class trees and placing everyone onto a much more even playing field. While this is great for solo play, it is slowly homogenizing the combat feel of each class and making several of the classes, despite being different, feel remarkably similar. RuneScape 3, however, has an unusual approach to combat. The classic RuneScape was known for its tick-based click and wait system, but with progress comes innovation, or at the least, change. The RuneScape 3 changed the system to a hotbar-based reaction ability selection, with characters having attacks linked both to level and equipped weapon. However, the system proved unpopular. The change from classic to modern was too drastic and players weren't happy, so they did what I believe any good developer should do. They found a way to include both. You can choose from 3 different modes for combat: Full Manual, Revolution, or Legacy. Full Manual gives you complete control over when you use each ability. Revolution will automatically trigger the first ability on the hotbar, allowing you to place the powerful abilities first and the weaker ones last, so you're always using the next most powerful attack. And Legacy switches it to be just like the old days: click and wait. Legacy doesn't gain access to the abilities, so the Legacy auto attack has been made slightly more powerful to make up for it. It ends up with a combat system that allows the old school fans and newer RuneScape 3 fans to play side by side on a relatively even playing field. This creates an interesting fight. While Warcraft may be more complex on the surface, it's currently in a state where lots of the classes have been reduced down to similar rotations, using only 3 or 4 buttons, and the unique elements of each slowly whittled away. While RuneScape 3 has actively made improvements to bring back the old styles, accepting updates and changes they made were not always the right choices, and balancing so all players would be comfortable. One became simple in a bad way. One went back to being simple in a good way, and so both meet roughly in the middle, and taking both games from purely the live state. The combat mechanics round ends in a draw. While Warcraft may have bigger fights, RuneScape 3 proved it can fix its mistakes by bringing legacy combat back. Warcraft's strength is its complexity, and RuneScape excels in simplicity. When they can focus on those sides and be confident in them, we will find a winner. Round 5. Dungeons and Raids. World of Warcraft strolls into this round with its head held high. It doesn't matter which game it's against, the Dungeons and Raids category is its speciality. World of Warcraft contains, as of the time of this video, 100 dungeons and 43 raids. It's the focus for world firsts. Mythic raiding is an elite sport, and grinding through the new raids piece by piece is a slow, arduous process only achieved by the top raiding guilds in the world. Mechanics are complex and varied. There's more endgame content in World of Warcraft than most games have at all, and once you're eligible to visit them all, there's so much to do here that you'll probably miss more content in World of Warcraft than you'd ever even see in another game. It's impossible to overstate just how much player versus environment content there is in this game. RuneScape 3 does have dungeons, and does indeed have many player versus environment challenges, but they take a slightly different form to World of Warcraft. While World of Warcraft focuses on instance-based dungeons, such as a small area that only exists for you or your party, RuneScape has a consistent world, with many players existing simultaneously. The most similar thing to a dungeon or raid the vast majority of players will be able to experience is the skill Dungeoneering. The Dungeoneering skill provides a player or team of players a procedurally generated set of challenge rooms to fight through, find coloured keys and open doors until finally taking on the boss of the floor. The location, known as Daemonheim, gets deeper and deeper, with floors having themes as you get closer to the bottom. Dungeoneering is a fun minigame, and I had fun when I spent several years playing it, achieving my primal weapons and armour, but it does begin to feel samey after a while. It's not a bad gameplay mechanic, but procedurally generated only goes so far toward player retention. RuneScape 3 does have difficult PvE encounters, but the average player won't ever see them. They're high level and very expensive. The winner of the Dungeons and Raids round is World of Warcraft. Not only has each expansion brought with it a huge quantity of raids, they've also all been extremely high quality. From Icecrown Citadel to the assault on Dal Zalor, Warcraft is now and will likely remain king of raid content. Round 6. Player versus player. World of Warcraft has a complex selection of classes, with each bringing something unique to the fight. As time has gone on, classes have had any fringe or situational abilities pruned and removed, leaving a more generic playstyle, but that has actually made PvP feel slightly more balanced. World of Warcraft is the immortal war between the Horde and the Alliance, so even if PvP direct play isn't your thing, you'll be involved in a certain aspect from day one. This gameplay choice to force players to pick a side, either the Alliance or the Horde, plays out in its favour, generating faction pride and bonds with other players. You can turn on War Mode and attack any other faction player anywhere. PvP is all around. The world truly can be dangerous, and no matter what class you are, because Warcraft isn't pay to win, it's fair, and player skill decides the victory. RuneScape 3 unfortunately made two major mistakes with PvP. The ability early on in the game's lifecycle to stun lock players and then damage them while they have no chance to retaliate is simply unfair and unfun. And then, perhaps the greatest PvP mistake in history, they killed Darkscape. A quick reminder, this championship is based on my own subjective opinion, and in my opinion, Darkscape was so good that killing it is almost unforgivable. Darkscape was an official version of RuneScape released a few years ago, with full loot PvP across the entire world, effectively turning everything into what we call the Wilderness, which in the live game is an area of extreme danger to the north of the map where you could fight and loot other players. Darkscape happened, was immensely fun, and was then closed down. While RuneScape 3 does still have the iconic Wilderness, and PvP fights can be balanced and fun now, it took a huge blow with the chain stun tactic when it went live, and the brave new world of Darkscape being forever closed, that PvP in the game now, despite not being bad at all, is forced to live in the shadow of what could have been. The winner of the player versus player round is World of Warcraft. Faction pride, duel anyone anywhere, and world player killing while in war mode make a brilliant experience. Loktar Ogar. Round 7. Unique Elements. Our final quickfire round serves to sum up the good and bad of each game in bite-sized chunks before getting to the final result. World of Warcraft. Highly polished. The sheer quality of this game is breathtaking. Insane amount of content. There's so much to do here. Deep history and lore, spanning books, comics, and a film. However, Battle for Azeroth wasn't as good as the previous expansions. The endgame grind for endless Titan-forged items, and the leveling process definitely needs work. RuneScape 3. Train every skill on one toon. New graphics and an immense amount of customization. Free-to-play game is still absolutely huge. However, it is becoming easy-scape. Skills can be taken to 99 or beyond in a matter of weeks, and in some cases, days. You can now buy in-game gold from Jagex, which goes against a core principle they used to have and I used to support. And unfortunately, we are forced to compare it to the old school RuneScape game, which in many ways is superior. After weighing the rounds and individual strengths and weaknesses of each game, the winner in World of Warcraft vs RuneScape 3 is World of Warcraft. The earth-conquering force of nature, the father of modern MMORPGs, does have flaws and imperfections, but with the sheer amount of content it has, imperfections are to be expected. World of Warcraft is consistent in quality and quantity. Low spots of the game are still better than high spots of others. And even though RuneScape 3 did put up a fight, World of Warcraft will move on to the next round. As usual, thank you very much for watching. Who do you think should have won? Leave a thumbs up if you agree with World of Warcraft, and leave a thumbs down if you're in support of RuneScape 3. If you've enjoyed this video, you can come chat to me live on Twitch over at twitch.tv/Josh Strife Hayes. Join the Discord chat, link in the description below, or you can be a lovely person by subscribing and ringing the little bell icon to be notified when the next video comes out. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great night.